panels on a town that's getting an extra date for a celebrity tour. Find out one of our panel met their idol. Very disappointed. Also, we share our most heated debate this week on drugs and a drug dealing attack. Find out if we think prison is a sentence or a playground. Also, we are honoured to be joined by the band Livewire. Let me show you a bit about them as we talk out just quickly. Livewire, this is Livewire as they perform and they are questioned by our panel, and then they sing live at the end of the show. So tonight we've got a bit of a celebrity lineup. So joining me, Nicholas James, is Phil Collins.
Hello.
Alison Ford. And Michelle Obama. Good evening, panel.
Good evening.
Hi. Good evening.
For the next 30 minutes, and join our debate on loose lips. Good evening and welcome to my four panel. Let me introduce you properly. Good evening to Sue Craven.
Good evening.
James Bensley.
Hello.
And Vicky Pearson's joining us this evening as the new panellist. Hello, Vicky. Welcome. Welcome to the first show. So let's just briefly start on our polls from last week. So poll number 1, can pets change your life? 87% said yes, 26% said no.
And we had some really lovely pictures come in from a few people following the page as well. We had Rihanna Wright sharing her photos, Abby Victoria and Karen Smith, and they were all really, really cute.
Oh, thanks for sending those in, guys. Also, our second poll was, have you learned anything positive about yourself in lockdown? 74% said yes, 26% said no.
And we had a comment on that from Mike Curtis. But hi, not sure I should put this honestly. I've learned when sticks are down, you actually see the worst in people. It made me stronger and certainly changed my perspective, and it still is. Many things are not black or white rather than grey, and I've seen lots of positives as noted above, but you really just a different perspective, I guess.
Yeah, I bet some people are thinking that. And our last poll, do you think we still have a long way to go in accepting the LGBT community? 72% said yes, and 28% said no.
And Sandra Overton has commented on this, saying she thinks many people have accepted it. The main problem is that the community wants everyone to accept it. And she says we don't want it pushing down our throats, and everyone is entitled to their own opinions.
Lots of different views on that. Thank you very much this week for getting in contact. Now, before we get on with the show, so Craven, haven't you been a busy lady recently? I've got to share that her husband, Richard, has done a e-bike channel for St Barnabas. But he completed this in August and raised an amazing amount of money of £850. How did he feel doing this, Sue?
Very good. He saw the challenge. It was on your bike because we had a friend died in the hospice in March, and they were absolutely fantastic. And we couldn't thank them enough. So he said, right, I'm going to do this challenge. He said he'd cycled 250 miles and raised £250. Well, he cycled 300 miles and he's raised £850.
Oh, well done.
So,
well done. You should be really, really pleased. So let's go on with today's show. Oh, hold on. There's one more thing. One of our panellists has turned another year older this last week. So, Alexa, will you play, please?
Thank you very much, Nick and Alexa.
Pause. If you stand up, James, and lift your bench up, I think there's something underneath there waiting for you. Alexa, stop.
Well, that's the most random thing in the world. Thank you very much.
James.
Oh.
Hey!
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It was so hard not to message you on Monday, on Friday, and say happy birthday. I went undercover with your wife, with your girlfriend, sorry, and she came round and picked everything up on Monday. So we went completely undercover. So happy birthday from Loose Links. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Let's move on to our topics. So we've got a couple of topics to talk about this evening. Good evening, Scunthorpe. As we talk about a comedian, Chris Ramsey, has added an extra Lincolnshire show. Chris adds an extra show as part of his biggest ever stand-up tour. There is already a show scheduled at the Bath Hall in Scunthorpe on 7:30 on Sunday, the 20th of March, that has already been sold out. So there's an extra gig at 3 p.m. on the same day as a matinee, so get your tickets now. So, panel, this might answer a few more questions than what we did at the beginning of the show. Show panel, have you ever felt starstruck by anybody? No.
2 years ago, my friend messaged me and said she's won tickets to go and see All Saints and meet them backstage, which was amazing because I loved them as a teenager. They were a big favourite band and they were so nice. And I think the thing that I always find cringeworthy is when you just come out with really starstruck comments, and I hate it, and I totally did. I was just so bad, and I could hear myself saying it and cringing inside and just be like, "You're so amazing," and but I did, and they were really nice, and I got photos with them all, and that was really cool.
Oh, what about you, Sue? Have you ever met anybody and felt a little starstruck?
Well, I did actually meet Mick Hucknall from Simply Red, but I was a little disappointed.
Oh, why?
Because I liked his performance, I'd seen him, and he was going on the tube home on the same one we were on, and he was so little and very weedy looking, and he had a really funny speaking voice. I was very, very disappointed.
What about you, James? Have you ever met anybody that you've gone, oh, I feel a bit uncomfortable here?
Not that I felt uncomfortable with, but I've run into a few very minor celebrities in my time when I worked at Butlins. So I had the pleasure of serving Barry from EastEnders a bottle of Budweiser. There are a bit.
Thanks for saying that. Just on its own, isn't it, really?
I also served Lamal, who is in Kajagoogoo, a cup of coffee. The Honeys bought a pizza off me once. They were very nice. 90s girl band. I must remember the Honeys.
I remember them.
You're not that young. And Keith Harris bought a
And
kebab off
Orville.
me.
Oh, and do you know what? Let me just pick up these names off the floor. Just give me a second. Just pick them up. Hold on.
It's not my fault they're D-list celebrities. But do you remember the Fast Food Rockers?
No.
You must know the song Don't Make Me Sing It.
Go on.
No, sing it.
You know, a Pizza Hut.
Oh, yeah.
Chicken and
Right. One of the girls that was in that worked at Butlins when I was there as a red coat, and I knew her. So,
oh, wow.
so yeah. And another one of the red coats worked there went on to be the Tweeny's dog. So there you go.
Oh.
So if you've not, in your lifetime, going back, thinking back then, if sorry, I didn't say my claim to fame. My claim to fame is Tony Christie. Met him live at the castle, shook his hand and everything. And my other claim to fame in the gay world is Jane McDonald. I've met her. And my heart still flutters every time she comes live on stage. It's a little bit gay, but I'm going with it. If you've not been starstruck before in your life, tell me somebody in your life that you've looked up to. Bloody hell, this is a really good show tonight.
Famous person or just in general?
No, just in general. So say like, especially when you're younger, aren't you? There's somebody that ends up in your life that walks beside you and you look up to them a little bit and want to inspire to be like them and stuff like that. Tell me your person that's been in your life that's done that.
To be fair, it might be a cliche, but I always and still do look up to my dad. I like the way that he, went about his life, and he's very respected his profession by a lot of people. And I looked at and thought, if I could be half the man that he is, I'd be happy with that. So yeah, it's corny, but
no, it's not.
What about you, Sue? Have you ever looked up to somebody in your life?
I think I'm the same, but mine was my mum.
Oh, that's really
and she taught me what I felt was very good values, which I hope I'm passed on to my children. Not to be unkind, try and not be unkind, do it to others as you'd want them to do to you as much as you can. And yeah, it was my mum.
Yeah, that's nice. What about you, Vicky? Have you ever had anybody that you've looked up to?
It's a difficult one. I know one of my first jobs, my boss's father worked with us, and he kind of came along, and he was a really good father figure for me. He used to give me a lot of advice on jobs and career and, striving for my dreams and, working hard. And he used to sit and bring me some biscuits and a cup of tea, and we'd have a sit down and have a real chat about what I wanted and where I was going to go. And I suppose I didn't really have that point in my life, and that was really a big thing, that was really nice. So yeah.
I think for me it has to be my best friend, who still is my best friend. I won't say his name because it's a bit unfair, but Andy. Hi, Andy. I've always looked up to him, always been an older brother that I've never had, and always been there for me. But I'm about to put somebody on the spot, because professionally it has to be you, Sue Craven, because I've worked with you professionally in a nursery, and I felt like I learned a hell of a lot off you in the 2 years that I've worked with you. So it has to be you professionally.
Oh, thank you.
No worries. I don't look up to you now.
No.
I would just like to say that so my mum doesn't beat me with a large stick, that I also look up to her too.
yeah, just make sure you get that one in. So, with taking that aside and talking about live concerts planning to be on next year, really, start of 2021, do you think that theatres and live shows should be looked upon now, especially if the game of football is back on?
Well, I think what we've heard today, really no. I think, what it's been made quite clear today that we've got another up to 6 months of lockdown things. And I think, unfortunately, I've changed my opinions from since I first read this question. And I thought, oh, yes, we could have a bubble. But I don't now, no.
Damn it, Stu, who am I going to argue with now?
I'm sorry.
Well, I will say what I said anyway, is that I think with the theatre, and as a supporter of theatre and a performer, I want to see it back as much as anybody. But just because you've only got one person or a handful of people on stage, there's so many people behind the scenes. You've got the light, the sound, the rest of the tech crew, costumes, makeup, dancers, singers. and soon you run from, well, there's only 10 people in the cast to there's 100 people. Then you've got the staff in the theatres as well, and suddenly that's an awful lot of people. So I think with the theatres, I think the audience is the smallest problem. That isn't the issue.
No.
With footballers, at least they can train with some sort of distance. And
but footballers aren't just. I'm going to argue with you, James. But footballers are not just training, are they? They're not just running around hoops and stuff like that. They're back into mainstream games again. And actually, you're not telling me that they're not getting into contact.
They are, but they've got rigorous in place. They testing, and they perform in a match for 90 minutes in a week. And how many performances in a theatre do you have? Some have 2 performances of what? 2, 3 hours?
How much are footballers training before a game?
But it can be contact. 90% of that could be non-contact, and probably is in the current circumstance. I'm not a professional football coach, but I would imagine that it's much easier to say, go and practice your passing, or, just change the training rate slightly so it's non-contact. And plus, they're in their own little bubble anyway, and they always are as a team. They train together, they travel together, so they naturally.
But then they're in contact with the opposite side of the team,
which is why they test.
I still not 100% agree with you. I think we're going to have to agree to disagree.
I don't necessarily agree that football should be on, but I'm saying that it's easier than some other things put into place as social distancing.
See, I think if these things have to be on, did you see I think it's Britain's Got Talent, have the whole audience behind screens?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
I think we just need to adapt. I mean, capitalism is all about adapting and about overcoming obstacles and whatnot. And we've got the technology now. I think, why are we not doing a lot more and trying to do a lot more online, or, just changing the format slightly? And some things I think can't be on and shouldn't be on. There definitely should be consistency. There's no consistency, and I think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, I think it is. It's very difficult when they're saying that you can't do this, you can't do that, but all the kids can go to school, and it's not a problem. Or anything like that. Anything it seems, and some people will say, "Oh, well, it makes money, so you got to do it." But the government is trying to do a very hard thing, and that is walk the line of what's right and what's not going to start a revolution, because the country can't wear a mask when they're told. So what makes you
no?
And so it's very, very difficult to say, because the same people that are saying, "Oh, you can't open that," will be the people saying, "Well, I'm not wearing a mask."
Yeah.
So
tell us what you guys think. Tell us if you think you agree with James, or if you agree with us. It's all about difference of opinion and sharing it, so please join our debate. Tell us what you guys think, because we'd like to hear your views as well as ours, especially if you've got a husband or a boyfriend back at football, or people desperate to get back into theatre, or even a child back at school. Please share with us what you guys think. So, moving on slightly, we move to the town of Grantham. Good evening, Grantham. As we talk about, this is our heated debate of the night, so get ready for this. Talking about a gang attack, a woman jailed again, so we're not saying jailed for the first time, jailed again for drug dealing. A woman who was locked up for over 2 years for her part in a gang attack has been put behind bars after being caught drug dealing again. So my question to you, panel, is, do you think, just like COVID, this is a crisis and the government and police should be doing more?
Yes, I do. I think there's a huge correlation between poverty, between local support centres being removed, local services being removed. All these things directly have a correlation with rising in crime, particularly within youth and younger people. And I think, you know, the government's made cuts, they've made choices on where they're going to kind of cut back, you know, for necessity, and that they need to kind of own that a little bit. And, you know, this is the consequence of those things. I do think that, personally, I think there needs to be a split. I mean, I don't necessarily believe in the way drugs are criminalised, because I think it pushes addiction into the shadows rather than tackling it. And I think if we had services out there to deal with addiction and to deal and give real support without fear of criminal, you know, prosecution, we could look at it in a different way. However, violent crime, criminal gangs and stuff like that, that's a separate, I find those two, you know, need to be separated. And maybe if you dealt with it differently, you'd get rid of that aspect of it anyway. If you kind of legalized it in some way, or had services available to deal with a lot of this. You know, it's a very complex issue, but I do think the fact that a lot of these services have been cut is going to cause these problems, and make them just more prevalent, especially in inner cities and in areas where, you know, poverty is a real issue.
I think to a degree it is that prison isn't, excuse me,
COVID.
frog in my throat. Prison isn't perceived how it used to be. It's not that hard time that it used to be. It can be seen as a little bit of a holiday. So maybe people aren't scared of it like they used to be.
Well, I don't agree. I don't think people are scared of prison. As a 30-year-old man, I don't believe for 1 second people are scared of prison. And what I find watching documentary, I'm really heated about this. What I find after documentary is people want to go back to prison. They're dying to do stuff to get back inside. And to me, it's more of a playground and a safety than it is punishment nowadays.
The thing is, if you're poor on the streets and got nowhere
exactly, homeless,
you're going to put a roof over your head, aren't you?
Yeah, but on the sacrifice of somebody else. You're putting a roof over your head for the sacrifice of somebody else. We're talking about this very openly. What if it's one of your children that are that sacrifice for that person to go back into prison? You would think very differently about people.
I wouldn't think differently. My opinion wouldn't change. I don't think that it's right, but that's the reason why. You know, you ask for a reason, and that's the reason. I'm not saying that it's right in what they do, but you know, they're going to go there. They get 3 meals a day. They've got a group of friends. And some people, you know, in their head, that's their safe space.
But to be fair as well, to be fair to the local authorities, during this COVID-19 lockdown, especially, I can only talk within Lincoln here, but I know from a professional point of view that every single person on the street was given a house, was given a roof over there because of lockdown. They were placed into places because of lockdown. We've got a team that works at the local council that gets those people off the street and into the houses. And I get what you're going to say, that actually they don't know how to pay bills, they don't know how to do this, they don't know how to look after themselves. But actually, there's agencies going in and helping them. We're not just leaving them on their own. And I've been with somebody, just within the council itself, where somebody has come in and said, and we've offered, do you want a shower? No, I don't want a shower, because if I have a shower, I'm not going to get as much money if I'm not showered. So actually there is help for people out there, but they don't want it.
There isn't as much help though, James. Nick, there isn't. There isn't as much help, because the thing is, all the services are being cut and it is getting harder and harder. And it's a tough life, as we all know, out on those streets. And, you know, but they get conditioned to living like that, even though they don't like it. And that's why we've got to have the help and the support. And I agree, going back to prison, I think for some it is security, but then what's the answer? Because they're cutting back on these addiction, the drug places for them to go. There's not the help and the support.
Well, there's a little bit more. There is a little bit more, but when we're talking, I can only talk about that's basically rough sleepers I'm talking about. But what I'm talking about quite openly is when you see on documentaries, and I do get what you're saying when people will say on a documentary, I've got no food, I can't get a job because of this, that and the other. But really, surely the government and the police need to be looking at, well, people are just coming back because they've got nowhere else to go.
Just on a side note, how come we couldn't find anywhere for these people before, but suddenly COVID pops its head up and suddenly we've got spaces for them? How does that work?
Government money has provided it.
Well, they magically appeared because of COVID.
Well, I think I can't answer it because I don't work for the team, but I think we've always had a crisis fund. I think we've always had, if something crisis happens. And believe me, this team hasn't just started within lockdown. This team has now been running for about 2 years. And they are funded, and they're trying their hardest to get everybody off it. But as Sue said, if you're conditioned to that lifestyle, to get them off the street and into a house with a roof over their head,
it takes a team of people. It takes a team of people. It can't just be one group. You've got to look at mental health. You've got to look at food supply. You've got to look at getting them back to work, and the support that they need for that. I mean, everyone's different, and I think the thing is with a lot of these documentaries is they home in on one or two types of people. Some of these documentaries frustrate me incredibly because they don't necessarily show the reality. They show an angle. And I think, yes, there are always going to be one or two people that are going to be one extreme or the other. But I think that there is a real problem that needs to be addressed. And I think the amount of cuts we've had over 10 years, which is a very long time, has really kind of increased a lot of these problems. And they're just going to get worse and worse until something's done. And I don't necessarily believe the stick is the only way that you can change something. I think there's they always say there's the carrot or the stick. I think you need to look at different ways of tackling these things and talk to the experts, really. And I think there's not enough of politicians talking to experts.
No, there never is. I think as well, we're talking two different issues of homelessness and prison, but trying to get these people back into work and back into mainstream society. I would imagine the challenge is similar because of the stigma that's met. When people apply for jobs, you've been in prison, a lot of people automatically be like, no. Whereas I was speaking to Gemma about this, and she had someone that had been in prison that she took on, and he was the best worker she ever had because he was grateful.
That's really good.
For the chance. But there's the stigma. If that person wants to stigmatise it, they will. And you've got to remember that a lot of these people that are on the streets, they weren't born on the streets.
No.
They life, and they probably lost an awful lot to end up in that state. They probably lost houses, children, partners, family to end up there. So, like Vicky said, it's massive mental health issues, and they are going to be fundamentally damaged as a human being, and it's going to take an awful lot to address that and to help them get back on their feet.
Well, a friend said to me, and I really believe this, a friend said to me, no matter where you are in life, you're 3 stages away from being homeless. No matter where you are in life. No money, no job, no family. You're on the street. So it's no matter how important and wealthy we all think we are and that we've got this, that and the other, we could lose it within the space of a week. Everything could disappear, a relationship breakdown could add to it. Losing job, finances disappear. We are in a safer. We are very blessed by the UK on what we can claim and what we can get for if we hit that stage. But Yeah, you're
Not
right.
easy. It's not easy. I had a car accident 8 years ago and broke my back, and I had a really high paid career. You know, I was very lucky in, you know, owning my own home and different things. And that was it. Car accident, boom, lost your career, lost your fitness, lost, you know, and then you're thrown into a benefit system that is very hard. It's not as easy as people. Some people seem to do all right, but some, you know, we found it really, really difficult. And, you know, it took me a few years to find a way I could be self-employed and work to support myself. You know, I didn't give up, you know, but it's not easy, definitely. And it's very easy for anyone to fall in that trap.
As well, there's going to be a lot of people in peril of this as we move through the months of more lockdown and people losing jobs, etc. And also people having to live on top of each other as well. It puts an immense strain on the family.
Exactly.
Having to live in each other's pockets. And I think that if the government doesn't have some sort of plan to address the nation's mental health by the new year, then there's going to be serious issues, because we all coped okay in the summer when it was nice and the kids could go out in the garden and we could all build barbecues and bars and all the cool stuff like that. But what are you going to do when it's raining for 3 months solid?
Yeah.
And go out and stuff like that. So we'll
leave that there anyway, but joining our debate as we talk on, and I'm sure it won't be the last time we talk about the subject because it's been an ongoing issue for many, many years. So please join us on all social media sites. As you know, we're on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Please have your say as well as ours. Right, I've got a bit of exciting news, panel. We have our first guest this evening. So it's now time for our first guest and our first band that we've ever had on the show. We are excited and honoured to have the band Livewire with us this evening. The band is made up of 5 men, so please welcome Alfie, Lewis, Aslan, Sammy, and there isn't Tom this evening, but they're here to join us. Good evening, lads.
Hello. How are you? Hello.
How are you all doing? Are you in the middle of practicing?
Yeah, we just finished up.
Just finished up. Never stop. Do you just do it like once a week then? Do you get together once a week?
Yeah, pretty much. Every Saturday. Every Saturday evening.
Cool. All right, so we're going to find out a little bit more about you. As I say, there might be a few technical issues this evening with the boys performing live. But if there is, we will be putting their video of what they've sung on our Facebook page tonight. So if you want to hear it a little bit more clearer, please go onto our page this evening. It will be up there, including their band Facebook page. So if you want to get to know them a little bit more, follow their page. So, how did you all come together as a band?
Well, we all go to this theatre group in Peterborough and called KYT. Hello. We all kind of came together when we were doing a musical, and myself, Aslan and Lewis, we were kind of talking about how cool would it be to make a band, and then we were like, we've got no talent, so we needed to incorporate Sammy and Tom, who's not here, to help us out, and then that was about a year ago, so it's kind of just come along from there.
Well, I wouldn't agree that you've got no talent. I wouldn't agree that you've got no talent at all. Question 2.
Question 2 was awfully similar to question 1, but were any of you friends before you met at the musical theatre group, or did you all just come together in that group?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of knew Sammy before.
We've known each other for like almost 6-7 years now, and then we kind of lost contact with each other. But we've kind of come back through the band.
We kind of, me and Alfie both knew, Tom under different circumstances. I knew of Sammy because we go to the same school, and Sammy was in a band before this. I'd seen him perform on drums, and I was like, oh, we could have him.
We could steal him.
Snag him from his band. I wasn't even meant to. I was meant to just be a fill-in. I wasn't even meant to be part of the band.
So who is Tom this evening?
Unfortunately, he's broken his wrist. He was involved in a fist fight.
He broke his wrist at school yesterday. So
very.
Unfortunately, he can't play guitar with
Just
no
a
hands.
mild inconvenience.
Yeah.
I was hoping from his bed, really. If he could just play with one hand, that'd be great. Thank you.
How did you guys come up with your band name? Who made that decision?
Go on, then, Lewis.
Initially, our band was called Warsaw, which was, as it turns out, Joy Division's original name. I figured, yeah, they're not called Warsaw anymore. Will now, but when you Google Warsaw band, Joy Division still come up, and we thought that's not going to do us any favours in the near future, so we had to change it for that purpose. And Live Wire is the name of an AC/DC song, I believe.
No,
I didn't know that.
Of a band, yes, of course. So yeah, that's how that came about. Yeah,
We just steal things.
Deal with pride.
And have you been able to practice during lockdown? Have you been able to get together, or have you been doing it by Zoom, or what have you been doing?
We didn't really get together during lockdown because obviously we were being strict.
Initially from March, we were like, I think everyone's families were sort of strict on lockdown. But prior, we'd booked our first gig, and that got cancelled due to lockdown.
It was like
we tried to be as progressive as possible with the time that we had, so we did several kind of virtual covers and even originals, 2 originals, and one of which we're going to play,
which has been good. It's been good because it's brought us a good amount of traction to our Facebook and Instagram, and so we've used the time in lockdown as productively as possible, so it's all going all right with it.
And when bubbling came about as well.
To anybody apart from this, obviously, have you done like a live performance throughout lockdown or anything like that?
No, this is our first kind of live performance.
Yeah, this is our debut.
So when we're famous in 5 years, people can come back to this.
So the last question we've got to ask you is that if people wanted to get to know you a little bit more, or maybe book for a gig in the future, how do they do this?
If you want to get to know us a little bit more, you can go to our social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram as Official Live Wire. And the same way, if you just message us through there, if you want to book us for any gigs, events, weddings,
we'll do anything.
We'll do anything.
Funerals, absolutely. Right, guys, if you go and get ready for your performance, I'll just end our link here. Thank you to my panel this week, Sue Craven.
Thank you.
Nikki Pearson and James Bensley. Please follow us this week as we go down and deep into the world of abuse, following the story from the EastEnders and Coronation Street storyline of different kinds of abuse that can happen. Join me this Thursday on Thursday's Thoughts with Sam Bingingham as she goes quite personally into the lifestyle that she had to go through. So please don't miss that on Thursday. So singing us out for the show this evening is Livewire, the band. Take it away.
Yes, I know that he's around and that is really cool. And yes, I know that favouring him is the golden rule. But dare you be a maverick and look the other way? Before I lose the will to live another hopeless day. Can't even step outside the front door of my house without someone finding up to let me know that he's about. Although your intentions are good, I'm sure you'll understand. I'm closer to him and you know I'm his number one fan. I'm lost for words to bring you through this effort to be close to you. Oh, my sister, I can never miss her, I can never miss her, she would always listen. Oh, my sister, I can never miss her, I can never miss her, she would never miss her. Yes, I know that he's around and that is really cool. And yes, I know that favouring him is the golden rule. And dare you be a maverick and turn the other cheek. Before I lose the will to live another hopeless week. Can't even step outside the front door of my house without someone kind enough to let me know that he's about. Although your intentions are good, I'm sure you'll come to see. I'm closer to him than you know he means so much to me. I'm a lost for words to call you because there's no one to get close to you. If I was sister off, you never dissed her off, you never dissed her, she was your sister. If I was sister off, you never dissed her off, you never dissed her, she would never kissed it. If I'd have gone and traded for another, oh, what's the bother one there on my back?
Well done, that was amazing. Well done, guys. That was really, really good. As I said, follow them on their Facebook page. It will be on our Facebook from next week, so make sure you book them because they're bloody amazing. Join us next week as Sandra Overton, John Perry and Sam Bingham will be on the next show. Good night and have a good week. Thanks, Livewire.
Thank you so much. Bye. Bye.